Does not look good. All right, welcome back to This Productions. Today we're gonna in attempt and in a journey for self-reflection, self-improvement, and self-revision. I'm going to look at I'm going to start a new series. The point of this new series is just that is to reflect and actually look back and see if my either what I do good in a screenplay and what I do bad, and then based on those, try to improve. This is all being done in the name of enhancing and becoming a better writer. So the first thing we're gonna do is look at the beginning of my script, right? The one I just did, the 10,000 leagues of the Odyssey, 10,000 leagues. So today we're gonna work on the first 10 pages. Now, the first 10 pages has a goal, right? That you have to meet, and it's you have to achieve five things, right? Characters, establish a setting, establish a tone, establish a theme, and then finally have stakes. Five things, very important. In the first 10 pages, there's no that's the checklist, right? I have a checklist when I'm writing it, and but there's no real order you want to establish and indicate these things. They kind of just flow as the 10 pages go, right? But you usually want to write you usually want to have these five things in your first 10 pages so that when someone reads it, that's like a producer or someone that wants to make this into a movie, that they understand that you're a good writer. And even as an audience member, you want to know these things even if they're subliminally in the back of your mind, so that they're fleshed out throughout the rest of the scripts. And a good writer will subconsciously and consciously invoke these ideas into your brain. So the first one is tone, right? And when you indicate tone, is mostly the genre of the piece, which doesn't always have to be one; it could be multiple, right? And the tone, it really is the vibes, right? That's essentially what in layman's terms, what tone is the vibes, right? How does it feel? Is it spooky? Is it happy? Is it lighthearted? Right? And in the first couple pages, indicate this tone. Now, don't get me wrong. Throughout as the story continues, it could shift, but in the beginning is gonna be one set tone, and then as the movie progresses, the tone could progress and change, and and is more malleable. The second thing is characters, right? We had to develop our essential characters. What do they want? What do they like? What are the goals? What is their needs? And what is going to be their character arc? These had to be established in the first 10 pages. The third thing is setting. Easy peasy, right? Time and place. And in if there is time skips, you had to establish this. Number 4, theme. So in the first 10 pages, the theme really isn't all the way delved into. It's hinted at, right? And then as the script progresses, it evolves, and it takes more account into the story. But right now, you kind of want to have a little hint, maybe a sentence here, dialogue there, some sort of a symbolism. And then finally, the fifth one is stakes. Why does any of this matter, right? It all just boils down to that little sentence. Why does any of this matter? Why should you care as an audience and as a reader? Why does this exist, right? You could write a story, and at the end of the day, you could watch a movie, and then some movies, as you watch, that you forget them after maybe a day, midnight, maybe just as you seen the movie. I'm sure you've seen movies where you watched it, and as you're watching the movie, you were just zoned out, right? So you want to make a piece of art, a piece of literature, a piece of something. Then when you watch it and you consume it, it sticks to you for days, weeks, and maybe months or years. Okay, so the way that this is gonna work is that I'm gonna go page by page on my script, and then we're gonna find out what I've established and what I haven't. And then, from afar, now that it's been a couple months since I've actually read the scripts, see what I did right and what I did wrong, and if I established the characters correctly, or just be more critical of myself in a healthy manner, right? So the first page, we start with the date, right? The date's already established. It's summer 1970, and we move on into we see that it's in a lake, right? Nice summer lake, shimmering, And then we meet Cassidy Cortez, right, who's the father, and then we meet his sons when they're little kids, right? It's Women Cortez and Emilio Cortez, and they're both carrying art supplies, and they have the board, the canvas, and then the father tells them that where should they go to set up these supplies, right? So now we've established the three main characters that are mostly in this movie the whole time, right? We already got it. We got the son, we got the father, and we got the brother. So that's in the first page already. So I think I did a good job establishing the characters and the first right off rip. So on the second page, the father sets up the canvas and he's about to we see that he's about to paint, and the kids ask him questions of what he's gonna do, what, and then the dad tells him that he's gonna tell a story, and then the kids respond with it's gonna be like a tall tale like Paul Bunyan. He says no because that's fake. He's gonna tell him a real story about a monster. And then at this point we don't know who the monster is. We don't know what's going on, but I'm establishing the idea that and the theme that the father does not see the monster as a monster, right? The Loch Ness monster, where we find out it is the Loch Ness monster later. A little later into the story, we find out that he sees him as a special animal that only he understands, and that you kind of we get the idea that only he believes that he could find him. Like he's destined to find this monster, right? He's destined to find this creature that he's been looking for a really long time at this point. Like I said, we don't know any of this yet, but I think I'm doing a decent job of giving little hints of what's to come. And then he begins to paint. So the third page, we start seeing that this story will have time jumps, and now we jump to winter 1960. What I've already noticed about my writing, and as established in the setting, I think that there's two different tones going on as each time skip has happened, because in the summer of 1970 it's a little more bright, it's a little more light. It's a little, it literally says the sun's shimmering the lake, right? So it feels more joyous, and the kids with the fathers with his sons, and they're having a good time, right? And it's really optimistic. It seems lighthearted. It seems like this sense of child, wonderment, and just something that just seems like a memory, and I wanted kind of to invoke a feeling of the past, and give you nostalgia that you never had, but now that you're watching this specific moment in their lives, it makes you feel more warm and comfy. But now that we moved on to a time skip, we go the completely opposite direction, which is what I intended to be. And now that we're in winter 1960, which is 10 years before, the father is now in a boat, and it's the middle of the night, and it's cold, and it's complete opposite of what we just saw. So right here we establish uh, a younger father. He's bearded, he's rugged, he's not as flamboyant as he was because he's rich in the future, and right now he's broke. And we see his friend Franklin Weaver, another character that's plays an important role to this story. And they both just talk about how Cassie wants Franklin to drink, but he doesn't drink. And then we move it to a fourth page where he's talking about how things are developing and technology is advancing at a rapid rate. And I also want to give this kind of feeling that we're not really in our universe, right? This story is taking place in in the 60s, but not our 60s, right? There's like a couple changes I do. It doesn't really feel like it's playing in this world, right? It's in another world, but it's similar to ours. I didn't want to make it too different where it's become sci-fi, but just a little different where you could tell it's not happening in our universe. In the fourth page, they speak about that the world's changing all the time, and that he's about to go sleep. Right before he goes to sleep, there's a rumble, right? There's a rumble that happens to the boat, and now Cassie wants to take a picture of whatever is the cost of this rumble. In the fifth page, we move to both Franklin and Cassidy are gonna get the cameras and take a picture of whatever is the cost of this, right? Well, they actually don't know what it is, but they want to take a picture of it and make some money, right? Because they're like photographers, but the thing is, there are photographers, but I have not developed yet, so I need to add. That's something I need to add on to this part of the story. And the fifth page, Cassidy falls off the rail and he's about to fall into the water, and then he sees the Loch Ness monster. And that's the first time he's ever seen him, right? And this is the story. And mind you, this is the story that he's telling his sons, right? About the first time he's seen the Loch Ness monster. He actually sees a tail. That's the first thing he ever sees of him. Now into the sixth page, Frank did not see the tail, and he comes in and then he asks what happened. And he tells him that he saw a tail, something that's underwater and is capable of hurting this big boat. And Cassidy says it's the monster. And then the boat's sinking. In the seventh page, Cassidy's kind of lost his mind a little bit, where he just staring into the. It's still the same. To the same day, it's a couple minutes later. He's staring to see, waiting to see a ripple, and hoping to take a picture of this monster that he's just seen. And he takes a picture. All the while, Franklin is driving the boat, and unsuccessfully, I might add, because the boat's sinking, right? And then they crash. And then in page 8, uh, all Cassidy does is wakes up and he helps Franklin get up and he saves him from the crash. And then we find out that like this is more of a dramatic moment, like a more action packed moment. And then in page 9, we find out that Cassidy got the picture, and then Franklin goes, "What picture?" And Cassidy's the only one we will ever need. And then that picture that he takes, he draws, and we cut back to 1970, where we finally see Cassidy uh whatever he's painting, and we see that it is the Loch Ness monster, because up to this point we don't know what monster it is. And this is the first time in the ninth page that I've established what he is going after, and it's the Loch Ness monster in all his glory. See that Women and Emilio are staring at the art. Women is captivated, where Emilio is more frightened. Now we're getting little hints of what's to come, where Women, later in the story, he becomes like the whole point of the story is that he's gonna look after the Loch Ness monster, and he has this attachment the same that his father did. And this is where I'm establishing this idea. Women goes, "Can I come closer?" And Cassie goes, "As close as you want." Women slowly walks up to the painting. And finally, the 10th page, Cassie goes, "When the picture made the rounds from the east to west, from the north to south, there were skeptics aplenty, believers and non-believers." And Women goes, "How can anyone call you a liar? You had proof." Cassie goes, "I did not have this one thing that any non-believer needs, a reason for it all. I was just a photographer, someone at the right place at the right time. Isn't that enough?" Women gets as close as he can. He is mesmerized by it. That's when I realized I have to capture such an animal to give unequivocal evidence. But through all the years, I have not been able to find it. I owe all my success to the monster, yet I will truly not be content with myself until I have him at my whim. Women eyes twinkle, then Women goes, "Can I lend a hand?" And Cassie goes, "As you wish. You and I, Emilio as well, will prove that the impossible is possible." That's the first 10 pages. And that's really the theme of this whole story, that the impossible is possible, even to such a delusional rate that we find out how far Cassidy and Women are about to go to find this monster. So now that I got the 10 pages, let's see what I established and what I didn't establish. As I was reading this 10 pages, I think I really did a good job doing 4 out of the 5 things on the checklist, right? I think I did a good job. Um actually I didn't do a good job establishing the setting, because the setting was just summer 1970 and then winter 1960. And the reason I didn't do a good job establishing the setting there, because this story mainly takes place in the submarine in the 1980s. So I never really actually established that this story actually takes place in the 1980s. This is more of a I used these 10 pages as a hook to why Women is doing what he's doing later in the story. But and actually, we actually do see the submarine in the 11th and 12th pages of the story. But in the first 10 pages, I do not establish that we're actually going to take place in the submarine, which I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. But since that's one of my checklists, it's a bad thing. I'm going to consider it a bad thing. And maybe I do like how I ended up doing it, but maybe it is like circumstantial and situational, that I need these first 10 pages to, as a setup to what's to come. But already something. So 3 things I did good. So characters I established. Um, Theme, I think I did a decent job, because it is a couple themes we're handling here, where is the impossible is possible, something that's he has a goal, right? And characters as well, and tone, because we established what these characters want. Women wants to find the Loch Ness monster. His dad wants to find the Loch Ness monster. We're getting these little things and what the dad's willing to do to get to there, and that's not 100%. Uh, that's not 100% shown and indicated in these first 10 pages, but that's something that I do continue on towards the story. And it does have to start with a little grain of salt, right? It is not, you do salt, 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 and becomes a big pile. And then tone, I think I did a decent job because we see that as the time skips, we are gonna shift in tone, and we're gonna have both, contrast of lights and darks as the story takes place. And then the one thing I actually didn't even, I don't think I did a very good job in was stakes. I don't think that you understand why these characters are looking for the Loch Ness monster other than the father saw it one time, 10 years ago. While, when he's in the 1970s, he saw it 10 years ago, and now he's in the search for it. We don't really understand why. We do understand it later in the story, but in this first 10 pages, we don't. So right now, I'm not sure if I'm giving the audience a reason to care, because I think I do a really good job of kind of intriguing the audience and not giving them a lot, but they're still intrigued to find out more. And I think I did a decent job of that. But I mean, I need someone else to read it. I do need someone else to read the script so they could tell me. But for now, I think personally, now that I'm reading it back after many months of writing the script, I think I do a decent job doing that. In conclusion, I hit 3 out of the 5. And when I do my revision, I'm gonna see if I could get away with just hitting 3 out of the 5. But for now, that's like what, like a C? It's like a C rating right there. I'm not gonna rate this, but if I were to rate, that would be a C, right? So there's always room for improving, always room for uh revision, and there's always room for just to be better. So I think I'm gonna make this into a series where I do where it isn't to be the first 10 pages, then it becomes the first act, second act, third act, whatever it may be, halfway point, midpoint, if I do all those things, and see if I do them good or do them not. So that's the first episode of that. And yeah, Bad Ideas Production.